We will focus on the 30th of June. Good afternoon to you all, and through you, the people of South Africa. The 30th of June has come and gone. As the dust settles, we wish to speak plainly to the nation, to reflect honestly on what we have just lived through, and to place on record 2 decades before the public. Let us begin with gratitude. On the 30th of June, the country stood firm. They called for a shutdown. South Africa did not shut down. Our children went to school. Our workers went to work. Our buses, our taxis, and our trains ran. Our clinics and our shops stayed open. The economy kept its feet, and we foresee no grave job losses from the action. For this, we thank the overwhelming majority of South Africans who refused to be conscripted into anarchy. And we thank the men and women of the South African Police Service for maintaining law and order in the Republic. The Border Management Authority for the sterling job they are doing on a daily basis, and our security services who stood their ground with professionalism and restraint. Where there was violence, intimidation and looting, because there was, the law took its course, and it will continue.
The June 30th anti-illegal migration shutdown has sparked strong reactions across South Africa, but according to ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula, the nationwide protest simply failed to achieve its goal. Speaking
These are manufactured grievances, and I don't accept them at all. The so-called lived experiences are not really what are challenging people on the ground. Where we have unemployment in South Africa and poverty and poor provision of healthcare services and failing basic education is largely a consequence of government's failure to provide them poor governance in running provincial and national services, and extreme levels of corruption that has destroyed the integrity of many of our public services. Those are the things that are actually failing, and that affects people's lived experience across the board. It is not foreigners in South Africa that are doing that. In many cases, whether they were illegal or legal in South Africa, they were contributing economically. They're not drawing on South Africa's resources and draining the budgets. The people who are draining the budgets are the corrupt people in government who are stealing money hand over fist. As we've seen in Tembisa Hospital, 2.3 billion rand stolen by public servants working together with syndicates outside, and the police basically doing very little to do about any of that. We have the Mandlanga Commission looking at corruption that is rife throughout our police services. That is not foreigners doing that. That is South Africans doing it. So I think that the issue is when people make these kind of comments about foreigners somehow undermining South Africa and creating an unfortunate lived experience for people, you see it with no evidence whatsoever. It is usually just done in order to kind of pander to this, what is essentially political maneuvering in order to, as we move toward an election. And, arguably, in many cases, ANC ministers are too scared to say anything against the people who are raising these grievances, because then it looks like they're being soft on foreigners. So we don't really have a real deliberation from them. What they should be doing is actually themselves observing the law, which is protect people from unfair treatment by South African citizens who are effectively threatening other people and making them want to leave the country as part of a pure political project, not any other real, genuine, systemic policy process or reform.
So are we saying that two truths cannot exist simultaneously with the corruption that we are seeing in the country, together with the depletion of resources and, again, what many of the marchers would then say are their lived experiences? Without you and I speaking from possibly our place of privilege, are we saying that these two can't exist side by side?
Whatever this is, to a large extent, it is basically a manufactured grievance in order to create outrage against people as part of a fairly narrow political project at this point in time. The real issues facing South Africa are long-term systemic problems that have been generated for quite a while now by a government that has not been delivering. And scapegoating foreigners is not how you solve our problems in South Africa. Actually working, telling the truth and looking at the problems as they are and dealing with them, that is what we require in South Africa. Scapegoating and building on grievances and driving up anger, which is threatening and creates an environment in which people break the law, is not a way to deal with the issues that we have in South Africa. Foreigners are not responsible for the situation we're in. And I don't accept the idea that somehow there are lived experiences that are so traumatic that people must behave like this. And government should not be condoning it. But we've had now an official date. Government has effectively condoned a date in which a threat...
After the planned shutdown, Mbalula said South Africa continued to operate as normal. Businesses remained open, public transport kept running, and millions of people went to work despite calls for a national stay-away. He argued that the country cannot be brought to a standstill by social media campaigns or unofficial protests. According to him, South Africans chose stability over disruption. However, the issue of illegal immigration remains a hot topic, with many citizens still demanding stronger border security and stricter enforcement of immigration laws. So, was the June 30th shutdown really a failure, or did it still send a powerful message to the government? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more South African news updates.
Baletha kwi-bootcamp kusukela namhlanje kusukela ngomhla ka-28 ngomhla ka-28 kwakuyibirthday yami ngicela ningiculele. Kusukela ngomhla ka-28 njalo mangabe kuyinyanga kaJuni abanye benu babengakazalwa. For the past 10 years njalo makuyinyanga kaJuni ngiyanikela emphakathini wakithi. For the past 10 years iyona into ebengiyenza, iyona ekhanda amadoda ngakithi, njengoba nibona insizwa zingaka ngakithi, njengoba nibona insizwa zingilalela kangaka izwe lonke. Ingoba 10 years ago saqala umsebenzi wokuthatha abafana abancane abano 5 years kuya 21 years sabafundisa ukunsizwa. Yes, ngicela omama benu benilethe kwaNongoma ngize ngizonifundisa nani kusukela ngomhla ka-28 izingane ezingangani zihlele entabeni zoze iphume ngomhla ka-16 nami ngiyahamba nje ngiyakhona manje kulamasonto amabili ngizobe ngihlele entabeni ngizoze ngiphume ngomhla ka-16 July bese-ke sibuyela-ke ey'koleni angithi so ngiyazi kusekulate manje kunina kodwa abazali benu nibacele ukuthi nifuna ukuvakashela ubaba uNdabandaba ngifike ngicele kubazali sicela ukuvakashela ubaba uNdabandaba kwanongoma niyezwa Disemba leza nonke sihambe siyogibela entabeni nginifundisa ukukhuluma noNkulunkulu nginifundisa ukwethembeka nginifundisa inhlonipho uma uyindoda awudingi ukwethembeka phambi kwabantu nezwe ingane zami uma uyindoda uthembeka uwedwe esayidini yingakho-ke ningibona mina ngikwazi ukulwela izwe kanje yingakho noma bethuka abantu bethi bayangithuka ogogo benu imihlathi yabo kodwa ngikhathali nezwe ngiyanithanda ingane zami nezwe mina empilweni yami ngibona ngezinto ezimbili ukuthi impilo yami ihamba kahle ngibona ngokuthi iy'ngane ijabule ngibone ngokuthi kuhlangana amadoda enza into eyodwa lezo zinto zowu-2 yizona engibona ngazi ukuthi impilo ihamba kahle uma ngibona nina nje nibaningi nijabule nizingane ngiyajabula ngiyabona impilo ihamba kahle uma ngibona amadoda ehlangene kusuke ngazi ukuthi izwe lizolunga elethi izwe elethi izwe
The next step, it's still the same thing that we've been crying, is to say that we're here to just cry out to the government to continue to assist us in the best way possible, because as we know, we were told of the ultimatum that we're given that if nobody decide to be reluctant to not to go to reintegrate, they'll be made to be used bylaws and forced to Lindela for repatriation. And we know that that place is mostly for people that don't have documents. And for most of us here, our documents are verified. And for the second part of reintegration, we were told, and we know that yes, reintegration is, we do want to reintegrate, but then the question remains that what's going to happen to most of us here who have been out of jobs for 3 months, for 2 months, and whatever little savings that we have used up that to be able to pay for the necessities of the house rent, electrical bills that we had. And at the moment we're sitting that we have nothing to say that we can move forward with. We don't know what exactly is going to happen. We don't know what is the next step. So hence we call upon the government, because the government is insisting that it's either we reintegrate, or if those that don't want to reintegrate are going to be made to go to Lindela. And then the question still remains, saying that for reintegration, it's not a problem. But there's only one question. What's going to happen? Okay, we're ready to go back. Now, what's going to happen to us to make a living? How are we going to pay the house rent? How are we going to be able to feed for the family? How are we going to take care of the children? How are we going to do the daily basics, nutrition that we need, the necessities that we need for daily lives? So that is the question that we have. And as you mentioned earlier, we were going to show it because there was some commotions going around in the safety, because we do know that on medias they've been saying that the minister did mention that they have to be enforcement of bylaws, meaning that we have to be forced to go to Lindela. And most of us, we don't want that. That's not an option for us. An option is reintegration. But the question still remains, if we go, what are we going to do as a living? Because we're jobless at the moment. The sites where we used to do our operation daily has been taken over. Municipality permits that were used by our brothers and sisters over here, they'll not be renewed. They've not been brought back when they were taken in for renewal. So that is the question at the moment.
We were told earlier, Ms. Bahati, that there are some members of this group who have actually gone back to their communities. Has some of you or some of your leaders been in contact with these people, and do you know how they have been received by those communities?
Yes, there are some that went back, and there are some that when they went, they decided to come back. Because when you go back, one of them did give us a feedback, some of them. They told us that when they went back, they ended up receiving comments from the neighbors. Obviously, it's the neighbors that you've lived with for years. And obviously, they do know that you're a foreigner. And maybe they were also the same people that were busy threatening you. If it's not at the workplace, maybe in the neighborhood or in the community. So when you go back, when they went back there, they were now told, hey, we saw you on TV. Hey, we saw you on TV. So you're also one of those people, yeah? You know, those kinds of comments, and hence as a result you're already exposed. Obviously those people, they will think that you're no longer welcome there. because you were only here just fighting for what is right for you, for that refugee acts and laws to be enforced, for people to be told that you also have a say, because you were brought in here, you were recognized as a refugee or an asylum seekers, and there are laws that abide to you, which we've been abiding to you to. We've been abiding to those laws, but then it's the same thing that we're calling for the government to enforce those laws, for the community to know that we are allowed to integrate and we are allowed to be as South Africans. So it's the comment we'll be giving you which are not good, it's just negative comments. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Bahati. Well, Vuyo, it seems as though the women and children, as well as some of the men that are here, will be braving the cold again tonight.
For that crossing.
Exemption, permit dispensation. The Helen Suzman Foundation took the Minister of Home Affairs to court, Comrade Motsoaledi. And in June 2023, it happened here in South Africa. The High Court in Pretoria set that decision aside as unlawful, shielding some 178,000 Zimbabwean permit holders from removal. A ruling the government then lost on appeal. The Scalabrini Center, Lawyers for Human Rights, and others have over many years repeatedly and successfully approached our courts to constrain removals and to protect the rights of migrants and asylum seekers. This is the truth. The slogan hides. The ANC government has often been doing so much on immigration that the courts themselves have had to rein it in. You cannot, in the same breath, sue the government for deporting and then accuse it of doing nothing. Let the record be specific. The courts ordered us to reopen the Cape Town Refugee Reception Office in Ruta, in Abore. They barred the removal of those who wish to seek asylum.
Ngibengibotloku ngizokusho kahle ngesizulu ukuthi nginibonge ngoba indlela enibike ngayo obekwenzeka nibike ngendlela enhle kakhulu okumsebenzi ensenzela wona njengesizwe ikakhulukazi umlayezo oqwashisa ngoba noma amaphoyisa esebenzile umsebenzi omuhle kodwa uqwashisa kwenu nako kwenza ukuthi izakhamizi iqonde. Manje ke ngithi angiqale ngokunibonga. Sibona ukuthi noma sibe nembhikisho eyahlukahlukene ngama-20 esifundazweni, eyishumi yayo binokuthula, eyishumi yaba nazo igameko zabantu abebeganga, abanye ababenobugebengu ababenzile ngamabhizinisi, amaphoyisa akwazile ukubopha abantu abangu-51 abangama-51. Kanti futhi ngenkathi abantu bebhikisha amaphoyisa akwazile ukubopha abalapha abangenamaphepha abalinganisela ema-250 oku-250. Lokho kusho ukuthi umsebenzi uyaqhubeka ngoba abantu bememeza nabukhathazeka kwabo. Sizoqhubeka nanjengohulumeni uqinisa-ke ukuba sibheke ukuthi emabhizinisini lapha nakubantu abahlala lapha ngampela ngaba abantu abafanele ukuthi bahlale ngokusemthethweni banawo imvume. Uzoqhubeka lo msebenzi njengoba sizoba nanengxoxo esoba nayo emavikini ezayo ukuba ke sizobhunga manje ngodaba lomnotho lo wamabhizinisi amancane akhona la emakhaya ukuthi senze njani njengohulumeni sibambisane nabayimele ukuze sikulekelelwane nabantu bala esifundazweni abayingxenye ngoba abanye bebeqashisile ngawo lamabhizinisi beqashisa abantu abangenamaphepha asesele dengwane lawo mabhizinisi. Fanele sibonisane ukuthi senze njani-ke njengohulumeni, zithini inhlelo zethu zokuba sibhekane naleyo nselelo leyo. Sizoba naloko kuxoxa-ke nokukhulumisana ukuze silungise lokho. Kodwa esikugcizelela kakhulu ukuthi bakwethu abantu bakwaZulu Natal fanele baqonde ukuthi sinabantu bala KwaZulu Natal nala eNingizimu Afrika abakwamanye amazwe ngokusemthethweni. Ngakho-ke kubantu abakhona la ngokusemthethweni akufanele ngampela kube khona umuntu ozoba exwasa ababandlulule ikakhulukazi makukhona abe nokuthuka baze basuke endaweni zabo kufanele abaholi kuyo yonke imiphakathi balekelele ekutheni babe bahlanganiswe nemiphakathi ukuze sikwazi ukuhlala sikwazi ukumukelana kodwa umuntu ubonga kakhulu umsebenzi wamaphoyisa ikakhulukazi uMajor General Makhoba ubuholi bakhe esifundazweni njobe ebambile lapha esibona ukuthi uNdonga waqeqesha kahle ngoba uma sibuka ukusebenza kwamaphoyisa kwaZulu Natal njoba kukhona no Major General Madondo engibona ukuthi benza umsebenzi omkhulu ukuthi basilekelele kufakazela kona ukuthi umuntu wesifazane ubaleka kangakanani uma inikwa ithuba indlela enza ngayo izinto uyenza abantu bamangale ngoba bekukuningi obekulindelwe ngale loku impidlango lebikhona kodwa bakhombisa ubuholi babo bube nomphumela omuhle ngibonga kakhulu kodwa ke egameni likahulumeni nabantu baZulu Natal laba abavolontiyayo ukulwa nobugebengu baholi beinduna abaholi bamabutho I'm sorry laba abahola induna zamabutho ama leaders amabutho ngibonga kakhulu namakhosi nomasipala nawo zonke inhlaka kahulumeni nabayimele ngokubambisana ukuthi isifundazwe sethu sivikeleke ikakhulukazi abantu bakwaZulu Natal bakwethu ebebekade bemasha nebebesemakhaya ukuthi baqonde ukuthi banesifundazwe esisodwa futhi lesifundazwe siyikusasa la wonke umuntu ngakho ukuvikela kwabo inqalazinda nokuvikela nje umoya wokuxabana ukuhlasela abanye abantu lokho kwenza ukuthi ngithi umuntu uyabonga kakhulu egameni lesifundazwe sonke sakithi kwaZulu Natal ngithokoza kakhulu nakwindlula mithi ngoba yahlaba ikhwelo lokuthi akufanele kube khona umuntu ozohlasela abanye abantu ngibothi ilawo mazwi kafuphi umuntu angawabeka ukuthi ke njengohulumeni soqhubeka siqiniseke inhlelo zokuba sibheke ukuthi basekhona yini abaqashe abantu laba abalapha ngongekho emthethweni
abaningi ke bakhala ngokuthi kungani uJacinta singamtshelanga thina uJacinta sengihlale naye imhlangano cishe emithathu ngahlala umhlangano naye nomkhwanazi nobaba umkhwanazi uNhlanhla umkhwanazi ngahlala umhlangano noPremier ngaphinde ngahlala umhlangano naye noPremier ngaphinde ngahlala umhlangano naye noPremier futhi kule mhlangano yomthathu angaze ngimfonele uJacinta ngithi akeze emhlanganweni angaze ngimfonele ngoba kwakungemina engangibiza umhlangano awukwazi ukumenywa emhlanganweni bese ummema bakhe abantu futhi nawe umhlangano oqala sasibizelwe lapha eMarine Parade sahlangana saficana sesificana khona ngoba umuntu owayebiza umhlangano wayesifuna sonke